Abby, and I'm a wet and wet oil painter. And I wanted to do a little segment on dealing with palettes. So let's talk about palettes really quick. Palettes come in sort of a plastic. These clear ones are an acrylic. You can get glass ones, and you can also get wooden palettes. Now, you can get big palettes, you can get small palettes. I sort of like these medium ones myself. I set them down while I'm painting. I don't sit and hold them, but if you're going to hold them, big ones are really heavy, and you just don't need all of that space. To me, it's better to have a few of them. That way, if I'm working on one thing, I can have one thing of paint on that, some other on another. If I don't want any kind of cross-contamination of paint, I can put them on separate ones. So let's talk about plastic. If you ever see ones that are kind of this opaque, kind of cloudy, whitish color, not completely white, because they make completely white ones that are acrylic like this, those work okay. But sort of these other kind of in-between ones, if you put any sort of paint thinner on it, it'll start to eat into them. So I would avoid them. Personally, I like these clear acrylic ones. They work really, really well. Glass, I haven't had any glass ones. They are very expensive, but I hear they work really well. I have kids, which usually don't come in my studio, and my kids are teenagers now, but I have kids, and I also have a rambunctious little dog, and so glass palettes just aren't for me, and I'm really good at breaking stuff, so something to think about if you ever want to get a glass one. Now, the last type are wood. Now, you can see this wood one. This is all stained up. And this wood palette, when I got it, I actually, I've tried this without clear coating them, and the paint sucks into the wood, and it never comes back out. You can scrape it off, but you'll always have those stains, and those stains can bleed back up into your new paint. So this one I actually clear coated with numerous layers of clear coat, and it still soaked right into it. So my opinion on wood palettes, get rid of them. They're terrible. Now, I use a lot of paint thinner. I use Gamsol when I paint, and sometimes I will forget to clean them. Now, if you get any paint thinner on it with your paint, you need to get it off that day. I can usually leave like a palette of paint, right, without any paint thinner on it, and it can sit overnight, no problem, right? But if it's got any paint thinner on it, it dries really fast, and then it becomes stuck to your palettes. So if that ever happens, first of all, clean your palettes right away. And sometimes if I have them where they have had some paint thinner, I'll take the good stuff off, which is actually what's over on this palette, and then I will have to go through and I'll have to scrape this stuff off. Now, let's say you do like I do and you leave home for a few days, a week sometimes. Let's say you leave home, okay? You go on vacation or whatever, and you come back and you realize you have a palette that you forgot to clean. Paint thinner or no paint thinner. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to scrape off the paint. Now, if there's stuff that's completely usable, I would use it. After a week, though, it probably won't. It'll all be crusted over, so it's basically all garbage. And that's why you don't want to put too much paint on your palette to begin with. So scrape off the stuff that comes off on its own. All right? And then I take this stuff. This shape of knife, by the way, is really great for scraping. This is made by Artist Loft, and I have a pile of these, and I have them specifically for scraping. I will do a segment later on palette knives because I have a lot to say about them as well. Excellent. So I'm going to wipe it off. Paper towels are your best friend when you oil paint, and I'll reuse that. So now I have this palette, and it's got a bunch of stuff on it still. So I can throw it in my bucket where I clean my brushes and let it soak for a little while with paint thinner. You can also take a little bit of paint thinner. This is just some Gamsol. And you can wipe it down. Now this stuff only sat overnight, so for the most part, the stuff is actually going to wipe off for me. So after I do all this wiping, and even if I let it soak and it's still got this stuff left over, okay, like that stuff, I can come back and I can try to scrape it again, okay? But it's not all gonna come off, and then a lot of times you'll end up with sort of stains on this plastic. So what I do is I take it to the sink, and I get really hot water and Dawn dish soap. Dawn, one of the best things that you can have when you oil paint, and not like the cheap watery Dawn or cheap dish soap. Dawn, like the Dawn Ultra, the super concentrated Dawn is the only thing that works. And I've tried even super concentrated other brands of dish soap. They don't work. So take this super hot water with some Dawn, let it soak in there for a little while. And then I take it out. I scrape, if I can get some more of the hard stuff off, I'll scrape some more of it off. And then I'll take some Dawn in a scrubby brush, and I will scrub the whole palette, both sides. I bring my knife with too in case there's some bigger chunks. And then I dip it in some more hot water, and it takes a few rounds of scrubbing, but they can get clean. So give me just a minute and I will show you what I mean. All right, I'm back. So I took these and I soaked them in hot water, and I then put Dawn on them and scrubbed them with a scrubber. And then I went over them with my palette knife and I scraped off a lot of the paint. And now I'm just drying them. And I have a kind of an old towel that I use. You don't want to do this with a good towel because it'll wreck it, but especially a good sort of scratchy towel. Now, they will end up permanently stained, but not too bad. They're a little bit cloudy, but that's all it took. So definitely make sure you get your palette or your paint off of your palette, especially if there's thinner on it. If you're going to be gone for any amount of time, definitely get it off. Don't put too much paint on your palette to begin with. You can always add more paint to your palette, but it's really hard to get it back in the tube once you've taken it out. So that's it. Hope that's been helpful to some of you out there. Any questions or comments, just throw them in the comment section of the video and I will happily answer them. As a side note, these acrylic palettes, they will break too if you drop them hard enough. They are what we would call a brittle plastic, and so they will break. So anyways, I'm Gabby. Thanks very much for watching. Please share, subscribe, like, and I will see you next time. And then until then, happy painting!